Get right to it here as we go into our Beast Texas segment here on the program, which is brought to you by Stiles Electric, based right here in East Texas. With offices in Longview and Mount Pleasant, Stiles Electric has been providing dependable, professional electrical work for over a quarter century here in East Texas and beyond. When experience matters, Stiles Electric delivers service that speaks for itself. Okay, we had some basketball last night, Matt, to get into here. Let's look at the girls here very quickly, kind of wrap them up. We do have kind of adopted a local team. We weren't really covering them all season until we got into the playoffs and saw just how really good they were. So, we're going to hitch our wagon to them, so to speak, as they have advanced to the state championship. Martin's Mill doubles up late last night, 61-33. Very interesting little community there for basketball. We talked yesterday about how I believe they won 6 straight regional championships, going to the state tournament now in San Antonio. And congratulations to those girls over there. Just a really, really solid little basketball program, little community and school over there. And their boys are actually still playing as well.
Yeah, boys got a win over Beckville last night. I think they doubled up Beckville. I believe it was 64-32 to move to the regional final. It just is like, and of course, you ran in baseball circles in this area the way I run in basketball circles. And my youngest son, who is both played basketball, but he was the basketball main sport player in the family. His freshman year, that was when I learned about Martin's Mill. And so they are they've always been on my radar just for about how well run a program they are, how just basketball crazed that community is. And so I know they got designs on both boys and girls winning a state championship.
Yeah, and you can see they fill out their gyms when they show up, and so the town pretty much shuts down during basketball season, particularly this time of basketball season. Well, again, it's state tournament time. So congratulations to Martin's Mill. They are headed to the girls UIL state championship game, and most likely have a really good shot to have their boys join them here in a week or so. Let's switch over to the boys now. They are, of course, in their region semifinal round. They completed that last night in our area and kind of took a licking here in East Texas in the regional semifinals. Had several teams involved in that, actually 10 by our count that we were covering and following here. We'll start in 4A D2 Region 2. The Athens Hornets took their only 5th loss of the season last night in a region semifinal matchup against Dallas Carter. The Cowboys come away with a 68-26 win over Athens in that matchup. A little bit surprising there just based on the records. I believe Carter had 12 losses, but of course we're talking about DFW area and probably scheduling and things like that. But tough loss for Athens last night and an otherwise really banner season for them.
Yeah, and when you're at this point, any season that ends at this point still got to be considered a very, very successful one. And so,
well, I've mentioned this before in any sport, and I really believe this. You can really be proud of what you've done if your season ends in anything that says finals or semifinals. Just be proud of getting that far because, like we said, you're down to basically the final 4 of your region, and you just look at all the teams in your region. That's pretty impressive. Congratulations to Athens on a really fine season as well. On the other side of the bracket, Chapel Hill goes down 63-56. Matt, I know you saw Chapel Hill in action. Does that loss to Kennedale surprise you a little bit?
Not when I found out that Kennedale's the defending state champion. In fact, it looked like they were pretty competitive with them. I would not call that one a shocker.
3A D1 Region 2, particularly here in our tight local circle, the Jefferson Bulldogs go down to defeat at the hands of Dallas Madison, 73-58. The Dallas school knocks off the Bulldogs and ends their season at 30-4. I know that's a tough loss for Coach Ty Taylor and his bunch over there in Jefferson.
Well, and we did mention, of course, you never know exactly how how those rankings, how accurate they are. But we did mention Dallas Madison was ranked number 1 in the state for 3A. So just by the rankings, it's hard to call that one a stunner. But yeah, great season for Jefferson. Hate to see it end that way, but still, that's nothing to hang your head about there.
Was really hoping for that all local regional final.
I know,
me too. We won't get that, unfortunately. But Liberty-Eylau did their part as they raced past Lone Oak 81-34, which sets up a really, really entertaining region final between Dallas Madison, as you said, ranked number 1 in the state, and Liberty-Eylau, who you have seen with your own eyes.
Yeah,
I believe are a believer in, right?
Yeah, they are. They're very, very good, talented, tall, long, athletic, fast, strong. I mean, they've got it all. But of course, we only see so much in East Texas. You never know. I know if that Dallas Madison team can handle Jefferson by 15, they've got a lot working for them. So anxious to see how that one goes.
3A D2 again in Region 2. Edgewood goes down 54-51 at the hands of Leonard, and on the other side of that bracket, Hooks is ousted from the playoffs with a 44-29 loss to Paradise. And so our local teams here in our region have gone down in the 3A D2 bracket, and you'll have Leonard and Paradise going at each other for the region championship later this week.
Yeah, don't know much about either of those.
Yeah, me either. We'll move on here to 2A D1 Region 3. Hawkins, who, again, I saw Friday night, played pretty well against Elysian Fields, took care of business on Monday night, 62-50 over Cayuga. They punched their ticket to the region final, and they will be facing San Augustine, which knocked off Lovelady by 10, 66-56. So give credit down there to San Augustine, as they have sent both their girls and their boys team now to the region final. See if the boys team can make it to the state semifinals here. The girls, of course, ran into a buzzsaw in their semifinal matchup, final matchup the other night. But San Augustine boys now have their opportunity against Hawkins coming up later this week.
Yeah.
2A D2 Region 3 to close out the boys here. Again, we talked about Martins Mill, and you mentioned it. They did double up Beckville exactly 64-32 on Tuesday night to advance to the region final there in 2A D2. They will face Sherano, which knocked off the Pointer 58-52 in the other region semifinal. So you have Martins Mill and Sherano going at each other with one of those local teams that we talk about here on the Right Team podcast, moving on to the state championship, or actually the state semifinals. So that's your boys' side here on this Wednesday after a busy action last night, Matt. I had to wait till this morning to actually fill out the scores on our Facebook page because Max Preps was slow and Facebook was slow actually posting scores. And so did a little bit more digging for these things, but actually was able to get them updated. So all the scores and the upcoming schedules and things will be up on our Facebook page hopefully by the end of today.
Yeah, at this level, Matt Stepp on Dave Campbell, Texas Football on Twitter. I found all the scores late last night. Of course, I was out at a baseball game, so I was up way later than I would normally be, but hopped on Twitter late last night before I went to bed, and he had all the scores posted. So when we reach this point, at least we know we can find it there. And I will tell you, I would trust Matt Stepp on Twitter way more than whatever Max Preps has to say.
Yeah, he's way hooked in. And it's not just football. Even though he is Dave Campbell's Texas Football, Matt Stepp knows everyone in the state in high school athletics. That is for sure. So speaking of baseball, we will move on here now. I want to go into a little bit more of a detailed presentation of what's going on in baseball since district action has started in baseball. Yeah. Of course, softball, again, is a little bit ahead in their schedule. And we'll get to them here again in just a minute. But I did want to point out a few things from locally that I saw just kind of perusing the district standings that are available. If you want to go check them out on your own, they're available on the Texas High School Baseball and Texas High School Softball websites. And so you can check them out there. They do a really good job of keeping up to date with actual scores for the most part, and district standings and things of that nature. So I would encourage you to go check out their website. But that is kind of the information here that we're relaying and kind of going by here to talk about. Starting, of course, in the 6A ranks, our 10 6A clubs in the area, Longview and Legacy out of Tyler. Well, Longview's had a rough start to the season, Matt. Going into yesterday's action, they were 0-8. on the season. The Lobos having a tough first year under Coach Robert Ellis over there in his first season with the Lobos. Pretty good coach over there, if you don't know who Coach Ellis is, but he's going to get that program turned around, I really believe. But, man, they've had a rough couple of years in Longview on the baseball field. Tyler Legacy actually went into yesterday's action with a 7-3-2 mark on the season, so a little bit better there for the Raiders. But they play in a really, really tough baseball district there against Rockwall Heath and Rockwall and the Forney schools, and it's really tough to make headway in that particular league.
Yeah, actually had our first installment of our Maverick Baseball Weekly with Coach Jackson Hood. And this is our first coaches show, so we've been going back and recapping the whole season, which, of course, Marshall started the season with a win over Longview. Yeah, talking with him, he mentioned Coach Ellis first year and kind of a rebuild. So, yeah, that's there is a little bit of a journey there to get back on track.
District 10 5A, you didn't mention Marshall. They opened up their district slate last night with a tough one. They went on the road and lost at White House 10-0. And so the Mavs have started their district play as long as everybody else. Some other scores from around the district. Texas High eases past Tyler High 20-3. Tyler High not known for their baseball, Matt, and it shows up every spring. Every now and then you'll see them get somebody in there that can make them somewhat competitive, but it wasn't last night against Texas High as the Tigers raced to a 17-run win in that one. Mount Pleasant shuts out Nacogdoches 9-0. Lufkin also takes down Jacksonville 10-0. So 3 shutouts in the openers of district play last night in 10-5A. Hallsville was off on Tuesday, and they will actually be hosting their annual tournament here at Bobcat Field, which we call the ballpark in Hallsville. The annual Wright Builders Classic this weekend here in Halls will be taking place. Some tournament action going on locally. Any thoughts from that Maverick game last night against White House? Oh, looks like Matt's frozen up on us here. We'll see if we can't get him back online. I'll continue to go down here through the scores and some of the facts coming out from the baseball side of the ledger here. As again, some districts started their baseball schedules last night. There are others who will probably be either Friday or another week or so before they dive into league play. One thing coming out of District 14 4A, they have not started their district play, but Pleasant Grove is 10-2 on the season. Of course, ranked number 2 in the state are the Hawks. There we have Matt back with us. Having switched to your phone there, Matt, internet troubles at the church.
Yep. Whatever.
I was going to get you to comment on the White House Marshall game. I know KMHT carried that one live. Any takeaways from that one that you saw in that particular matchup?
Yeah, White House. I mean, they're a perennial playoff team. I know you know that. With you know that with having followed Hallsville. They are. Ooh.
We got 2 screens now going on. We've got you doubled up. We'll wait for Matt to get back online here with us. It's always best for him to actually record on his laptop because that then allows him to kind of pull up his own notes for the show and everything. When he has to go to his phone, of course, that wipes all of that out. So we'll just wait for him to be able to work through that. And it looks like now you're back with us. There you go.
Yeah, whatever. No, White House, very, very strong. Really good hitting team, good base running team. Did a lot of little things that Marshall didn't do. I will tell you, I don't know if you've noticed this going to White House. It is the windiest place to watch a baseball game I've ever seen.
It is wide open over there, and nothing but wind comes through it.
And so you can tell their fielders know how to play a fly ball much better than ours do. They're used to it. And so there were a couple missed plays. A game that could have been a 4 or 5 run game ballooned quickly. Mavs had base runners in every inning, had multiple base runners in 4 of the 5 innings and didn't score. So didn't have that timely hit. I don't think that score was maybe as indicative of how competitive the game was, but at the same time, there was no doubt who the better team was.
Yeah, man, I could tell you on a whole podcast some old stories. Hallsville playing White House back in the day, and you talk about rivalries. Yeah, it was. I don't know how it is now because I'm not that close to the inner workings of the programs necessarily, but But back in the day, I mean, you had two programs that really didn't like each other. I mean, I'll just put it that way. And so that always leads, when you're both competitive, that leads to some really exciting baseball. And we had some fun with that back in the day.
Yeah.
So I was mentioning while you were off the air that Pleasant Grove in District 14 4A is 10-2. Of course, they're ranked number 2 in the state in the Texas High School Baseball Top 25. In District 16 4A, they started their district schedule last night, giving you some scores here locally from around the area. Carthage shuts out Kilgore 3-0. Chapel Hill knocks off Pine Tree in a good baseball game, 3-2. Spring Hill defeated Gilmer 12-2, and then Henderson knocks off Cumberland Academy 12-0. Three of those teams I know, Spring Hill, Chapel Hill, and Carthage, are actually state ranked in the top 25, and so they all open district play with big wins on Tuesday night. District 13 3A, the big note from there is that Mount Pleasant Chapel Hill is 11-0. Again, they have not started their district slate yet, but a good start there for Chapel Hill from the smaller school up in Mount Pleasant area. District 14 3A from our area, again, they started their district slate last night with Atlanta defeating DeKalb rather 10-2 bEASTtexas. And I got to do some research on this because I don't know if this is a misprint on the website or not when I mention this score to you, but it's like that on both team schedules, so they're sticking with it on the site. But according to this, Liberty-Eylau defeats Queen City Tuesday night 39-1.
Woo. Man,
that's one of those that, of course, a 5-inning game, I'm assuming. And so you just do the math on that. That's an average of almost 8 runs an inning in 5 innings for Liberty-Eylau. Now, if that score is correct, big win for the Leopards over Queen City in that one.
And if it's on both schedules, you got to.
It is on both schedules, and again,
that's confirmation.
The Texas High School Baseball site does a really good job. It's got everyone's schedules, and it has their schedules laid out with their results throughout the year. And both on the Queen City and the Liberty-Eylau side, it was the same score. So, big one there. Talking about run differential, the Leopards jumped out in the district race in run differential. Hook stepped out of district play last night. They took on non-district foe from Arkansas, Nashville, Arkansas, and Hooks defeated them 7-5. The other district game in 14-3A was Redwater over New Boston, 11-4. Skipping down to District 19-2A here, and just a note here to talk about the Elysian Fields Yellow Jackets. They are 6-2 on the year, with most of those games coming in 2 home tournaments that they've played over the last 2 weekends. The Kip Lewis Memorial Tournament a couple of weeks ago, and then, of course, the Brandon Going tournament, Memorial Tournament this past weekend there in EF. And so they have ventured out into just regular non-district play on this past Tuesday evening, and they got a 10-2 win over North DeSoto from out of Louisiana. So the Jackets are 6-2 there, have not started that district play yet in 19-2A.
Good deal.
Let's move down into the softball side of things here. And in District 10 6A, Longview played New Diana last night, which is kind of you talk about cross.
There's a gap there.
Not just a big gap in size, but Lady Lobos come away with a 24-12 win over the Lady Eagles. And so, shout out to New Diana for putting 12 runs on the board. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
Longview improves to 9-6 overall. That was, of course, a non-district matchup for them. And then Legacy actually fell to 9-6 on the season with a 10-1 loss to Rockwall Heath in district play. Now, let's get into 10-5A. Again, KMHT was on hand to broadcast the Lufkin and Marshall matchup. Pretty good game there, Matt. According to the final score here, the Panthers come away with a 4-3 win over the Lady Mavs, but some pretty good softball there being played on the airwaves there for you guys at KMHT.
Yeah, and really a heartbreaker. You know, Marshall's softball has been making strides over the last couple of years under Coach Kelly Fay, and they're poised for a breakthrough, and I thought it was about to happen last night. Lufkin had a no-hitter through 4 innings, I believe, but Marshall's pitching was pretty good too. It was 2-0 Lufkin leading. Marshall scores 3 in the top of the 6th to go up 3-2, and it stays that way going into the bottom of the 7th. Lufkin has bases loaded with 2 outs, and a misplayed ball in the outfield that should have been out 3 is dropped and 2 runs scored, and that's how Lufkin won that game. So a heartbreaker for the Lady Mavs.
Well, yeah, that is a heartbreaker for sure. I'll tell you what, though, and I'm gonna put on my Mav alumni hat here a little bit and say that I'm so proud of the facilities that Marshall has for their spring sports in particular. If you've never been to Marshall High School and driven up Maverick Drive, you can see, of course, a renovated Maverick Stadium there on your left. But then you get up to the top of the hill, man, and you get to look down. You got that beautiful softball facility there across the street, the baseball field, all of them turfed. And just a great place to watch high school baseball or softball. Of course, you know, the big feature there, the pavilion that sits right in the middle of all of it, that just kind of towers over the outfield fence there at the softball field. Just a beautiful, beautiful place to watch a ball game there. And that'll be interesting to see when Lufkin comes to Marshall in the rematch, how that one goes down for sure.
Well, and Marshall doesn't really have time to hang their heads. They are at White House Friday night. So another quick turnaround, another tough opponent. So we'll see if they're able to bounce back.
White House did slip away to a 6-5 win over Mount Pleasant on Tuesday. So the Lady Cats there pull out a win over the Lady Tigers.
And that we were watching the scoreboard. Mount Pleasant was ahead 5-3 going in the 7th inning, and White House scored 2 and then scored 1 in the 8th to win it. So a couple of crazy comebacks at home for teams.
Yeah, it's going to be, if you earn one of those 4 playoff spots in that district in softball, you're going to really earn one, right?
No doubt.
There's going to be a good team that stays home because they can't break through into that top 4. It's going to be tough. Speaking of tough, Texas High knocks off Nacogdoches in the other district contest, 16-2 there. Hallsville, which is by and large probably the prohibitive favorite in the district, had the night off from district play. The Lady Cats, of course, are ranked 8th in the state in the top 25. They are 11-4-1 on the season. They did get a district win last week, and so the only 3 remaining undefeated teams in the district currently going out of Tuesday's action are White House, Lufkin, and Hallsville, with White House, Lufkin both being 2-0. Hallsville is 1-0. District 16 4A softball scores here. Carthage defeated Gilmer 9-0. Carthage improved to 15-5 on the season. They are 1-0 in district play. Spring Hill knocked off Pine Tree 4-2. The Lady Panthers are now 17-5 on the season. They are 1-0 in district play. And then the couple of the other games here, Henderson defeated Chapel Hill 17-1, and Pleasant Grove defeated Kilgore 9-0. To drop, according to the standings there, Kilgore is now 0-20 on the season.
Wow.
Looking to break through with that first win. Before we close out our softball section here in our bEASTtexas segment of the show, again, sponsored by Stiles Electric. District 19 2A, just some scores for you here. Harleton defeated Carlisle Tuesday night, 14-2. The district opener for both teams, Overton defeats Elysian Fields 10-2. Elysian Fields dropped to 11-9-1 on the season with that loss. And then Union Grove defeats Wascom 15-5. So that is 19 2A softball results from Tuesday.